Oh yeah, if you haven't done so already, please make sure you have your GitHub account ready and you have downloaded Git and also have an IDE or a text editor that you're comfortable with using for this workshop. We're going to be doing a small example, so it'll be nice for you to have this so you can follow along. If not, no worries. If you just want to watch, that's totally fine too. And I can include the workshop presentation in the Discord after the workshop. And then make sure you have a command line installed too. So for Macs, it would be terminal, which you don't have to install anything, but if you have Windows, use Git Bash, which is going to be part of step number 2 in this presentation. And then you can just let me know when is a good time to start.
Yeah, just waiting like 2 more minutes to let some more people wander in, and then we can take it from there.
Sounds good.
All right, I think we can get started. Thank you all for joining us. You are all in the Introduction to GitHub workshop led by Priscilla. I just want to take the time to introduce you. So Priscilla is a proud graduate of Columbia University and Scripps College, and she's currently working at JP Morgan on digital markets technology and has previously worked at high-tech startups in Silicon Valley and Taiwan. And we just want to welcome you and welcome all of you into this workshop. So thank you, Priscilla.
Thank you so much for having me. Hi, everybody. My name is Priscilla, and I'm so excited to be here. I graduated from Columbia in 2017, and I've been working at JP Morgan ever since. So it's good to be back in the Columbia space, and I'm glad to see everybody, including non-Columbia peers as well. I hope you guys are all having a really great time at the hackathon. My favorite part about being on a hackathon is the learning experience. And this workshop is going to be primarily focused on learning. If you've already had some experience in GitHub, using GitHub, then I actually would recommend that you exit out of this and start focusing on your hackathon project. But if you've never ever coded or never touched GitHub, this would be a great workshop for you because I will be using really, really easy to understand examples to go through the concept and also show you how to use it without talking about really, really difficult code. So part 1, I'm going to be talking about the concept, and then part 2 will be kind of an interactive thing where you can follow the example, and it's going to be lots of fun. And if you have any questions for me later on, you can definitely ask in the Discord, and I will also be giving you my LinkedIn at the end of the presentations if you have any questions about Git, or if you have any questions about like applying to work at a financial technology company. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. So let's just get started. Hopefully everybody has already downloaded the GitHub account, created their GitHub account, downloaded Git, and also downloaded their text editor. If not, it's okay. We can figure it out later. Or you can follow along for now, or just watch for now and then do it later. So intro to GitHub, part 1, the concept. I am a huge fan of Boba, and I am Taiwanese, so like that's where Boba comes from. So I'm gonna use a really, really cute example of how we can change the menu of Boba using Git. So let's say we are opening our Boba shop, and our Boba shop is called Boba Hacks, kind of like IvyHacks, but Boba Hacks. And we want to have a menu that has all of the different kinds of drinks available, but we already have our lease, and so we have to open today. And so I want to like start making money soon. So we want to open today, and the first thing I have on my menu is just the OG menu, which is just milk tea. And so the milk tea is essentially what customers can order because that's what you have on the menu right now. And I'm gonna call this the OG main menu. Actually, like this is a typo, it's OG main. I'll tell you about main versus master later on, but we are gonna call this the main menu, and that's what customers can order right now. But you know, it's not really a boba shop when you don't have boba, right? So what I want to do as an employee, as an owner, is actually to try to come up with a recipe. And because I want to keep the store open, I don't want to actually make the recipe in front of the customers. I actually want to make a copy of what I have in the front of the store, bring it to the back of the store, and then start testing out different recipes I can use. So maybe I'll add like 2 scoops of boba, maybe I'll just add half a scoop, and I'm gonna be doing all of this testing. And eventually I'm gonna come to the conclusion that, okay, maybe 1 scoop is the perfect amount of boba, right? So I'm actually gonna call this branching out. I'm branching from the main menu, and I'm gonna add a feature, and this feature is going to be add boba. So I'm gonna call this branching out branch feature / add boba, where I'm testing out new recipes behind the scenes. All right, eventually we've come to the conclusion that this is the perfect recipe, right? The perfect ratio. What I'm gonna do next is called staging. I like to imagine staging as like the moment where we're like, ta-da, this is it, like this is my code. So this is staging. And then we're gonna commit a message after I take a snapshot. So after the ta-da moment, gonna take a snapshot and say, all right, this is the perfect amount of boba I'm gonna add, and I'm gonna commit a message to it. And committing a message essentially is writing down what you added to this little, this branch. So when you come back later on, you'll see like, okay, this is why I did this process. I did this process because I wanted to add boba. Or if you have someone else working for you and they want to check out your process, they'll know why exactly you did this process. So after you take a snapshot, which is called a commit message, you're going to push back.
Are there slides that you're sharing right now?
Oh yeah, I am. I'm so sorry. Am I not sharing right now?
Yeah, I don't think anybody can see.
Oh my God, you guys, I'm so sorry.
No, you're good.
This is totally my fault. All right, I'm gonna just go through. Can you guys see now?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, I'm so sorry, you guys. Somebody please tell me if I mess up again. Apologies. All right, so main menu, right? We talked about the main menu. We talk about branching out. All right, so branching out, we added the boba, tested out the recipes, be good, right? And then we're gonna stage it, which is essentially saying, hey, ta-da, we're ready to commit this to the main menu. Take a snapshot, which is also called committing, and then add a commit message. And then we're gonna push back to the main branch. And sorry, this is supposed to say main. And when you push to the main branch, you're essentially merging back to the main menu. So what the customers can now see, new menu, right? It no longer is this pure milk tea, it's actually this milk tea with boba with a new recipe you created. So just to recap, you have a main menu, you branch off, you name that a branch, and then you're gonna stage, commit, push. So what if another employee wants to play with the original recipe, right? And they say, hey, like maybe I don't want pure milk tea. Maybe I just want green tea. So what the other employee is going to do is to create their own branch. And we're going to call it feature branch because it's going to be a new feature. But you can honestly name it whatever you want. Like if it's just your branch, you can just call it your name, right? Or Priscilla, that's my name. So yeah, whoever is working on this new feature, they are playing with the original recipe, and what they end up doing is removing the milk and just having green tea. And they're going to do the same exact thing. They're going to be staging, committing message, and then push to the master branch. But when they push this time, it's actually going to have a conflict. And we call this a merge conflict because as they're trying to merge back to the main menu, the main branch, it's going to look at the changes you've made. And over here in the bottom, you see that the change is basically looking for milk tea and then removing milk. But when it's looking at the main menu right now, it doesn't see milk tea. It sees milk tea with boba. So it's going to be confused. They're going to say, hey, like, please resolve the conflict before you push. And they're actually going to give you, it's pretty smart. They're actually going to give you two different changes. One is your local change. Local meaning that it's in your computer. It's what you're doing right now. Incoming changes means it's coming from somewhere else. So that's going to be the cloud and the internet, or like your teammates are going to be making those changes. So those are the changes that your teammates have made. And it's going to ask, hey, which one do you want to keep? You can either keep your local changes or incoming changes. Keep the incoming changes. But there's actually a third option, which is to keep everything, to keep both changes. And so I'm trying to build a menu. So I'm just going to keep both changes. And after I make that decision and tell them that, hey, I want to keep both changes, I will make another commit message, another snapshot, and say, all right, I resolved merge conflicts. And then I'm going to push to the master branch or the main branch. And that's essentially the concept of version control, right? Version control is being able to make changes without losing changes that other people have made, which is really, really important when you are coding from a big code base. Code base is just like all the code that you have for one application. So let's go through the concepts, right? It keeps track of code history. It takes snapshots of your files. You decide when to take a snapshot by making a commit message. And you can visit the snapshot at any time. So every single commit message has their own commit ID. So let's say you have made a few changes and you realize, oh shoot, I don't like those changes. How do I go back, right? And you can only Control Z so many times. So the best way for you to do it is to actually go back to your previous commit and see what you did for that commit, and then revert those changes. And then last, you can stage files before committing. And staging is kind of important because, like, let's say you are making changes to 2 files, and you only stage file A, but you don't stage file B. So when you make a commit, when you take that snapshot, it actually only saves the changes that file A has made. So file B will just be ignored and not be committed. Branching and merging, we talked about it a little bit. Branching is where they copy or duplicate, they as in developers, copy or duplicate the source code. And source code is also called a repository. And on this branch, they can safely make changes and test out the code without affecting the rest of the project. So like we said, the main menu is not going to be affected while you're playing with the recipe in the background. And the merging is when once a developer gets the code working properly, they can merge the code back into the main source code and make it official, right? So when you're ready and when you know that this is it, you can merge back to the main menu, the main branch, and people who are using your application, people who are buying your Boba will be able to see the changes you've made. So what exactly is Git and GitHub? So there are two parts of GitHub, right? The first part is Git. So Git is an open source distributed version control system. That means that the code base and history is available on everyone's computer. So big words here. Open source means the source code. So it is a program or a code where anybody can add to it. They can modify it based on what they think is good for the source code or for this program. And it's usually developed as a public collaboration and made freely available. And then distributed version control, it's a form of version control in which the complete code base, including the history, can be mirrored on every developer's computer. So a non-distributed version control, for example, will just be on like one person's computer. The reason why we like the distributed version control system is because in a team, you're not gonna be working on one computer, you're gonna be working on multiple, so it's important to have a distributed version control system. And GitHub has the other part, right? It not only has Git, it has Hub. And GitHub is a cloud-based service that helps developers store and manage their code. And so it tracks and controls changes. So the Hub part is this cloud. They have their servers in the cloud, so you can access your code anytime you want. So it stores all of your code and the program, but it uses Git as a means of tracking changes. So that's essentially what GitHub is. It's a tracker for all the changes you made, and it also stores your code. And so we're gonna look at GitHub now and see what we can do with it. So first, let's actually practice using our command line. If you have a Mac, you can open up your terminal. And if you are on a PC, right-click on your desktop and select Open Git Bash, which you have downloaded earlier. So let's do that right now. Alrighty. Okay. Yeah, so we have our terminal. Let me just make it bigger. And if you are on a Mac, just do the CD, squiggle, squiggle. Sorry, let me try to, all right. I just got a new keyboard and I don't really know how to use it that well. So I'm having a little bit of issue with typing out different characters. So squiggle, desktop, awesome. And then click enter. CD, oh, forgot to do CD. CD, squiggle, desktop. And if you are on a Windows, you have already opened open up your Git Bash, which will be directly from your desktop already. And we're gonna try some command line commands. This is what we call the command line, and you're gonna be using this a lot when you're coding because you're gonna be pushing code, you're gonna be committing code from the command line. So let's do ls, which stands for listing directory. And since we're on desktop, we will actually see all of the different files you have on your desktop. And let's do ls space -l. And when you do -l, it means listing out everything. And you can see that you have the dates in which the files are created. You can see all of the permissions and all of the details, like how big the files are. And we can do ls-a, which lists all of the different things that you see on your desktop. As you can see, there are some files over here that you can't actually see on your desktop when you look at it with your eyes, because a lot of the times, let me just remove everything. There we go. A lot of the times, your computer will hide these files that don't start with like a letter, just because they're not really usable as a human who's using like a computer, but it's recognizable for your computer and it's good for like coding and things like that. So yeah, -A will give you all of this hidden information, which is really cool. All right, so let's change directories. Over here, I have like a directory already made called test directory on my desktop, as you can see over here. So I'm gonna do cd and then space test directory. And it actually goes into the directory. And you can test out to see where you are at by using pwd, and it will show you where exactly you are at on your computer. So it's users, Priscilla, desktop, and then test directory. To get out, you do cd space ... and you're back on desktop. So I should have done this earlier, but let's create a directory together. Let's do mkdir, which stands for make directory space. And let's just call this like my first directory, right? And then press enter. And when you do ls, you will see that my first directory is on your desktop. And if you go to desktop, you'll see that, hey, it's over here, which is pretty cool. And if you want to go into it, try cd space my first directory. And a trick is to press tab after you type out the first few letters, so it'll autocomplete. Yeah, and then to get out, cd space ... Perfect. Super easy. You got the basics of command line down, and to be honest, like there are going to be so many different commands you can use, but nobody really remembers all of them, so I'm always looking at the cheat sheet. But I will send you the slide later, and there's all of this information over here, like additional commands you can use and try out for fun. All right, so next, we're going to look at all of the other commands we're going to be using, which are Git commands, and we're going to initialize your repository, which is the code base. We're going to add, which means staging. We're going to check the status. We're going to commit. We're going to pull, push, clone, all of those things. It's a lot right now, but we'll go through it one by one, and it's going to be really, really easy once you start to get the hang of it. So first, I want us to all try to create our first directory. So let's go to github.com. And github.com, make sure you are logged into your account. Give you guys a second. And once you are logged in, on the left side, sorry, it's like so loud outside right now. On the left side, you will see this new button, a green new button, and that's how you create a new repository. So let's create this name. Let's create a name. Let's just call this IvyHacks Boba, right? And we are going to make it private or keep it public, your choice. I'm going to make it private. Add a description, and I'm going to initialize a repository with a Readme, with a git ignore, and with the license. So a Readme is essentially a description of how you can run the program, what the program is about, what your code is about. And I'm going to show you an example of Readme real quick. Let's see, this is my other example. Yeah, so this is what a Readme will look like. So some questions a Readme might answer is like, how do you install and run the application? How do you even use it? What are some examples? And who do you contact if you have any questions about the code? So we're going to initialize the Readme, and then we're going to add a git ignore. So sometimes when you're coding, you might be using practice like passwords and usernames, and you don't actually want to commit those files into your GitHub account, right? You don't want to commit that to a repository because that's like really bad because you don't want to commit passwords. So the git ignore essentially is the file that tells us which files do you want to ignore when you are committing. So it's really, really helpful. And then a license is just like something that you can tell others what they can and cannot do with your code. And I saw that you kind of have to like click around first before you can get this to be enabled. So if it's like disabled, just click around. But we're just gonna say none for now. And then click create repository. Perfect. All right, so let's explore this a little bit more. This is your repository and this is your README, and you can edit here. And this is actually a really, really powerful tool. On top of being able to keep track of your code and make changes safely, you can do a lot of other things like raise issues. If you see an issue and you want to make sure that it's being checked up upon, or if you see a bug, something wrong with the code, you can make a new issue and assign it to someone on your team to look into it. A pull request is merging. So when you are merging two branches, you're pulling some changes from one branch to the other. So it's called a pull request. And then you have actions, which is kind of like workflow stuff. I've never used this. You can sort your project tasks. Never used it. And there's just a lot of other things you can do. See how much people are contributing to your project. Oh, and then in settings, you can manage access. So if you have other people in your hackathon team, you can add collaborators. So that's how you get people to code for your project, especially if it's private. Nobody's gonna be able to see it until you add them. All right, so let us clone this project onto your computers so you can actually use it. And this giant green button, clone, we're going to copy this code and then, yeah, copy it, or you can click on this button, which is copy. And then you can go back to your terminal, right? So go to your terminal again. Let's just be on desktop so it's easier for everybody to see. And then we're gonna do git clone, right? Git clone, right click, paste. And if you don't add a name to it, it's just going to automatically name it IvyHacks Boba or whatever that repository name is. But if you want to change the name, like Priscilla's Boba, you can just do space and then the name. But I'm just going to call it IvyHacks Boba. And then click enter. All right, awesome. ls, yay, IvyHacks Boba is here. Now we are going to go to our IDE or text editor. I like using Sublime as an example because it's like really easy to understand. This is my other example. Let me close that. All right, to open the folder, go to File, Open. Go to your desktop, and then you do IvyHacks Boba. And don't click into it because we want to open the entire folder. And then we're going to do Open. And then I'm going to just create my first file. Let's call it index.html. Right click over here, new file, and then Control Save, Control S. I'm going to call it index.html. And then click Save. All right. For the purpose of this workshop, we're just going to copy some code that I already have. It's super basic. Just some HTML code. What you're gonna do is go to this is my repository, github.com/the_Priscilla_Wang/Boba, and then click into index.html. So I'm gonna give you a second to do that. And then what you're gonna do is just copy and then put it in your own index.html file. And then Control S to save it. All right, once you have done this, go back to your desktop. There's a lot of files going on. And then you're actually just going to click into this folder using your Finder or Windows Explorer. And you can click onto this and it should open up a browser. If it doesn't open up index.html, if it doesn't open the browser, you can right click and do open with and then choose a browser you like. So I'm gonna click on it and it's gonna open up the browser and it says, welcome to my Boba shop. Please pick from the menu below. So this is just basic HTML code. As you can see from our code here, super simple, right? You have a title, which is going to be shown right up here on the tab. And then you're going to have the body, which is over here. You have header, and then you have header 2, which, you know, H1 is header 1, H2 is header 2, and then P is paragraph. Super simple. You made your first web page. So we are going to push this code into our repository because, as you know from earlier, we don't have anything else in our repository that we just created. So let's go back to our command line. In our command line, first we have to initialize the Git repository. So let's just go in. Let's do cd IvyHacks. And then let's do ls. Right, so we see that we have our readme file and the index.html file. And I apologize because I didn't mean like initialize, I meant like we have to configure our user to use the Git. Otherwise, every time you make a change or you push, you'll have to reset everything and then put your credential in every time. So to configure your Git user, let's do this. It's git space config space and then dash dash global dot, dash dash global space user dot name space and then your name in double quotes. All right, so you've configured your name, and then we're gonna do the same thing, but with your email. So another trick is that you can use the up down button to go back to a previous commit you've made. So we're just gonna do the up button, right, and then do back, and then we're gonna do user.email instead. User.email space, and then put your email in associated to your GitHub account. And then click enter. And then you've configured your global username and global email on this computer. Perfect. All right. So like we said, we actually want to commit to the main. We want to commit to the repository. So let's do git status to see what's going on. All right, so it gives us some of this information. Your branch is up to date with origin main. Origin just means the URL in which you are storing this code base. So this would be the origin, like github.com, your name, and then the name of the repository. Instead of writing out that URL every time, you can just say origin. So your branch is on origin/main, and you see that there are these untracked files. So git add the file to include what will be committed. So that means that this file is not tracked in the repository on the GitHub. So we're gonna do git add space index.html. So this is staging. Enter. Let's do git status again. Perfect. So it says that your new file is green, so it's ready to be committed, and we're just going to commit. Git commit -m. So git space commit space -m, and m means message. Quotes. Initialize my menu. We just initialized it, copied it. All right, we've committed. Git status. Your branch is ahead of main by 1 commit. So that means that over here in the repository, you have 1 less commit than your current local. So next, like we said, we got to stage, which we did. We got to commit, which we did. And now we got to push. Git space push, space origin, space, and then push. Sorry, origin main. So that pushes to the main branch in origin. Awesome. So let's go to your repository and let's just reload the page. And if you scroll down, you're going to see that index.html that you pushed to the repository, which is awesome because that's how we initialize our repository. Yay. If you click into it, you can see that this is the latest commit, and this is the commit ID that I told you about. It's unique to that change you've made, that snapshot you've taken. Oh, and then I wanted to talk about like why it's not called master anymore. So initially, you might hear the word master sometimes, but that's what GitHub used to call the main branch in your repository. But we wanted to, or GitHub and a lot of other developers wanted to remove the terms master and slave out of the technology industry just because it's really, really insensitive. And so they just started renaming everything main. So sometimes you might still hear, oh, the master branch or commit to the master branch. It's the same thing as a main branch, same concept, but because of like how bad the old terminology is, they've changed it to main, which I personally really appreciate. Yeah, so that's the reason why sometimes you're gonna see master, sometimes you'll see main. Awesome, so we're actually gonna go to our example where we are gonna add Boba. Right, so to create a feature branch or to create any branch, this is the command git checkout and then -b, which means you're creating a new branch. And then I'm going to call it feature / add -boba. Git status says, okay, on branch feature add Boba. So I'm going to do milk tea with Boba, and then save. Control S, git status again. All right, so it sees that I have modified changes to index.html. Gonna git add. And another trick is that you can actually add all of the files that have been changed by using a period. So that will add everything, but that might be a little bit dangerous because let's say you change 9 files or 10 files, but you only want to commit 9 of them, then you don't want to use, you want to make sure that you're not adding all of them, you're not staging all of them at the same time. But in this case, we were just staging 1 file, so we can use the period to add all of the files. Status again, and you don't have to check git status every time. I just like to do it just to see what's going on and make sure, double check on everything. Git commit added Boba to milk tea. So committed, and then we're gonna git push origin. Oh, this time we're gonna do feature add Boba because we're pushing to our own feature branch that we just checked out. Yay, okay. Now go to your GitHub, and let's just see what's going on. When you click on this button, you're going to see that there is now a new branch that you added. And if you go into the index.html file, right, if you're in the home page, go into index.html, you can see that, hey, like on this branch, we have milk tea with boba. And on the main branch, our index.html is just pure milk tea. So we're going to try to merge it now. And like I said, to merge, you have to make a pull request because you're pulling changes from one of the branches. It's pretty smart. It says that you can compare and pull, but let's just create a new pull request on our own. And I always like to look at the direction in which the arrow is going. I'm going from Boba, add Boba to main. And if you scroll down, it will show you what changes you've made. And the changes we made was add Boba, perfect. Create PR, pull request, you can leave a comment. You can add reviewers, like maybe a teammate, you wanna make sure that your code is correct, so you have them review it. Create pull request. And they will automatically merge for you. So this branch has no conflicts with the base branch, perfect. And we're gonna merge it. And then confirm the merge. Successfully merged and closed. So let's go to code. And let's look at main menu, index.html, and ta-da, you have successfully merged the two branches, which is awesome. So yeah, that's basically how you merge code. Since we have a little bit of time, I'm gonna just quickly do an example of how to resolve merge conflicts, but this might be a little bit more complicated, so don't feel like you need to follow along. So let's say I would like to, let's see if I can produce a merge conflict, because I try to avoid it, so I don't really know how to produce it anymore. All right, let's say I want to create a, do git checkout, main. Oh, actually, here's another example. Let's do git checkout main. So now we're at main, but as you can see, our local main, because my computer hasn't looked at what's in the main in the cloud, so it doesn't have that newest change. So to ensure that you have the newest change, you have to do git space pull after you switch to that branch. After you pull, you'll see that, all right, I actually have all of the new changes that are in main, which is good because this way it's harder for you to have a merge conflict. All right, so I'm gonna try to produce a conflict. Git checkout, and I'm gonna do remove feature, remove milk. So I am on the branch remove milk, and I'm just gonna do milk tea with boba, and I'm just gonna delete everything. Remove milk, right? Oh, sorry. Let's just do green tea. And let's say I push this to my remove milk branch. Git add, git commit. Okie dokes. So it's now in my remove milk branch. Gonna make a PR, a pull request, remove to main, perfect, create pull request. Okay, so my main now has code base. Oh, did it go through? Let me just double check. Pull request. Oh, I don't think I merged it. Yeah, it's still open. Yeah, because I created it, but I haven't merged it. So merge. Awesome. Okay. All right. And then let's say I go back to my original branch, git checkout feature, add Boba, right? The one that we were working out of. And over here, you see that we don't have that green tea change. Let's just say we don't know that we've made that green tea change. So we're going to continue milk tea with boba, less sugar. Less sugar. All right, we're going to do git add, git commit, git push origin, add boba. All right, and then we're going to once again make a pull request. We're going to do add boba to main. And so now you're going to see a merge conflict. Let's create a pull request. All right, it will say this branch has conflicts that must be resolved, and we're going to resolve conflicts. And this is what I mentioned earlier, where it'll actually show you your local changes, which is your changes that you were making here on your local branch, and then also the remote changes, which is the main branch, which you're pushing to. And it'll ask you like, all right, which one do you want to keep? In this case, we want to keep both, but let's say if we want to just keep one of them, you can delete these these lines, and then delete this line, keep that only. But I'm just going to delete, I'm going to keep all of them. So I'm just going to remove these little symbols that tell me where I need to pay attention to, and then mark as resolved. And then you're going to commit merge. And that's essentially how you resolve a merge conflict, and then make sure you are merging your pull request afterwards. Go back to your code base, and then you will see that you have this new changes. Yeah, that's it. I think like for the purpose of your hackathon, I would recommend that maybe you guys just all work on the main branch, but constantly pull. For example, if teammate A has made a change, announce to everybody, hey, I made a change, and then teammate B and C will be able to pull and see those changes quickly. Otherwise, I would recommend that you make your own feature branch, like maybe feature dash your name, instead of creating a new branch for every single component that you are adding, just because like you only have so many hours for the hackathon. But for good practice in the future, if you're ever working at a company or you're working on a long-term project, make sure that you are separating all of those branches based on what you're adding, and because like that's just easier for people to go back to and to reference. But Git is such a good tool for you guys to use if you want to keep track of all your changes, and I really recommend that you do write in some good commit messages, because like you are gonna forget what you coded. So it's really important to write good commit messages. I know people are lazy sometimes, they're just like ignoring all the commit messages, but it's really important. But yeah, that's it. Thank you guys so much for sticking around, and I apologize again for the beginning where I did not share my screen. But I hope you guys have a wonderful time this weekend at the hackathon, and that you learn a lot and produce a lot of good work. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, Priscilla. Thank you, everybody, for joining.